Hello and welcome to my 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League predictions for the league phase. Before this video, I ended up predicting every single match from the first one in match day 1 all the way to the last one in match day 8. In result, this ended up giving me what my true table would look like if all these results ended up sticking together, and it also includes tie-breaking scenarios. By all means, I don't expect this to be perfect, but I feel it will paint a overall solid picture of what we can expect. How this video will work is, instead of going from the bottom all the way up, we're going to do this country by country based on their UEFA coefficient rankings. So we'll begin with the nation first, and we'll go as far down as we can to the last nation, and then the clubs will also be in order by each nation based on where they finished in the league. We have 36 clubs to look at, so I'm going to try to skim through everything fairly quickly with the results of each match on the screen as well as the record. After I give a brief summary of the club, I'll end up showing where they ended up finishing, and I'll try to keep everything color-coded as well. Also, a couple of reminders that these opinions are also my own respectfully, and the other thing is, clubs do have harder schedules than others, so this ends up factoring in and not so much determines who is the best club ultimately. Anyways, are you ready? Let's do it. Just like when I did the video of the newest promoted clubs in UEFA Top 5 Leagues video, we are starting with England, and that is with the Premier League champions, Liverpool. So Liverpool, they're coming off that Premier League title. They made some pretty big moves over the summer, and they also did really good in the league phase last year in the Champions League. And they'll have a record of 7-1-0, so they're undefeated with 7 wins and 1 draw. And for me, I have them finishing 3rd for this go-around, so pretty high up, pretty close to where they were last time. We have Arsenal, the club we all know and love for always finishing 2nd in the Premier League as of late. For Arsenal, obviously they are going to be a really good side by all means. They had a really good run in the UEFA Champions League phase last year. They missed out on winning the Premier League once again, as mentioned. So they're bringing a really good side again. And for me, I have them having a record of 6-1-1. So that is pretty good. And where that will put Arsenal, the last spot guaranteed into the round of 16 guaranteed. That is 8th. Next, we have Manchester City. I know after last season, there's a lot of questions, probably right now, based on how they started the Premier League. There's a lot of questions. For me, I feel they're more looking forward to Champions League football than their own league right now. So, for me, they have the players, and I gave them a 5-1-2 record. And where that ends up putting them, they're obviously not going to be a guaranteed spot. They're going to have to go through the playoffs and the knockout phase, and that will be 10th place for Manchester City. We have the FIFA Club World Cup champions, Chelsea. So Chelsea has had an amazing summer with that. They've added a bunch of players in the transfer window, which is pretty typical for them. So that is honestly like my concern, because I'm looking at chemistry when you're bringing in all these players and the group is just changing often, if you get what I mean. They're still going to be pretty good by all means, but I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. So for me, they'll have a 4-2-2 record, not bad at all, and that will put them in 12th. And the last club in the Premier League that locked themselves into the Champions League by their league standing position was Newcastle United. And boy, they have not had a very fun summer, and they definitely have not had a very great start in the Premier League either. You have Alexander Isak, who ends up leaving. He wasn't very happy there, and that was a very big player for them playing up top. So they're going to unfortunately suffer from that a lot. So I didn't think they would be as low as they are. The record is literally 1-3-4. If you're wondering where that puts them, it puts them outside of that top 24 and 27th, meaning they just won't be playing any UEFA football after the fact. We have our UEFA Europa League champions, and that is Tottenham. And that's how we have 6 English clubs playing in the Champions League this year. So they ended up losing Masona, who ended up going to LAFC in the MLS. So I would say that's a big loss for the club, honestly. But I do believe they still have all the players. I do believe their manager that they brought in is really good, and they've had a good start to the Premier League this year. So with that being said, I ended up giving them a 4-2-2 record also, just like Chelsea, but due to goal differential, they will finish in 13th behind Chelsea. Moving over to Italy, we have the Serie A champions, Napoli. So I'm sure we all know that Napoli ended up adding Kevin De Bruyne, so the Belgian is going to be a massive factor for this club. And I do believe they are the best club in Italy right now. They could get knocked down, but right now I just don't see it. So with the roster they have, I feel they'll set themselves up really well with a 6-2-0 record, which is undefeated, and that ends up putting them 6th. So they end up getting around a 16th spot. Next, we have Inter Milan. So this is also a really good side, and they have players that I like a lot, like Lautaro Martinez. That is personally my favorite player from Argentina. I've had the privilege to see him play a couple of times. He's going to be massive for them. They have just so many good players, in my opinion, and they'll do really good in the Champions League by all means. I am giving them a 4-2-2 record, and when we're talking about goal differential, that ends up putting them 11th past those other 2 Premier League clubs I mentioned in the past. We have Atalanta, and they did really good last year, but they have lost their manager, they have lost key players, they haven't had the brightest start of the year in Italy, so that is a slight concern for that club. They are a big club in Italy, so you do have to factor all of that in. And if you're going to be going up against clubs like these, I don't think they're going to do the best. I only see them getting a win. They'll get 4 draws though. They'll lose 3 times. And where that puts them, they barely make it in by finishing in 23rd. Just 2 spots ahead of 25th. We have Juventus. And I can't lie, I'm getting a soft heart for them because they do have Jonathan David playing for them. And I believe David is going to be a great player. That's a part of their project as they're looking to get back on top in Italy. For me, I believe we're going to see a lot of Jonathan David scoring goals for Juventus in the Champions League, just like how he did at Lille last year. And if he's not on the ice, you have Vlahovic, who can also score goals coming off the bench. He's done it in back-to-back matches for Juventus. So how that sets up for Juventus, that's going to be really good for them. I have 7 wins, no draws, just 1 loss, and that will end up putting them in 5th. But they ended up losing 4th in a tiebreaker. Now we move over to Spain, and we have Barcelona. Barcelona, they're just really good all over the field. We can talk about all these positions. We can talk about all these players like Jamel. He is up and coming. I know he didn't have the best years last year, but you have all these players, veterans, young players. I think it's a really good mix, and I feel their schedule isn't too hard, honestly. So for me, I just gave them straight up 8 wins. So if you put 2 and 2 together, that is first. Finishing behind them was Real Madrid last year. Real Madrid is also an elite club. If Kylian Mbappe can score goals, if they can get production from all their other players as well, but Mbappe is the key player. I know he did not have the best start of the year last year. He does have 3 goals right now in the league. If he can just be himself and Real Madrid is just Real Madrid, I have them getting a record of 7-1-0, and that actually puts them right behind Barcelona too. Coincidence. Behind Real Madrid was Atletico Madrid. And for Atletico Madrid, they haven't had the greatest start of the year in La Liga. I do feel some of these struggles will move into the Champions League as well. They're still going to be a good side, but I do believe they are going to have some struggles by all means, and it's getting more competitive in La Liga on the top side, in my opinion. So some of that may wear in coming into the Champions League. So for them, I have them winning 3 matches, drawing 4 matches, and losing 1, and that will put them in 15th. The 4th club in Spain ends up being Athletic Club Bilbao, and for them, they have been on the rise for sure, and they're starting to become a threat to be reckoned with in La Liga. My thing is, they don't have as much experience in the Champions League level recently compared to the other clubs, and I do think they're going to have a little of a fall off compared to the other clubs. So with that being said, I gave them a 2-3-3 record, and that will end up putting them 20th. So they still are in the knockout phase, which I feel that is at least appropriate for them. We may have Canada's newest club, and that would be Villarreal with Tejan Buchanan, who is actually tied for first and the Liga goal scorers after getting a hat trick. They also added Tani Oluwaseyi, so I'm looking forward to it. I did not make this bias, but they also have Nicolas Pepe, a player that I really like as well. They have some really good attacking players out on the wings. If they can just stay consistent and not lose in silly ways or have silly draws, I think they'll do decently well, but the competition is legit. So I ended up putting them in 17th with a 4-1-3 record. We move over to Germany, and that would be Bayern Munich, who has won the Bundesliga title finally after a 1-year stint of not winning it. So Bayern Munich is by all means an elite club. They have all the players you could ask for, and Harry Kane can absolutely compete for that Golden Boot. I know Alphonso Davies, the Canadian left back, will be out maybe until, I want to say, match day 6 or 7 sounds realistic. But either way, they should be fine. They have so many great players. So 7-0-1 is my record for them, and that will put them in 4th, with broke that tiebreaker with Juventus. The club behind them is Bayer Leverkusen, and they are in the dumps right now. They have had an absolutely horrific start to the year in the Bundesliga with their manager. And if he's going to be the manager, I don't see them doing anything better in the Champions League. I don't have any other way to put it. I'm just throwing the blame card straight at the manager. And if he's going to be there, they're not winning any matches, and they're only going to get 4 draws. And if you're wondering where that puts them, that's 30th. In 3rd, we have Eintracht Frankfurt. So this is a club that I would also say is on the rise. They're ending up bringing in more good players. They want to take this thing seriously and try to challenge Bayern Munich this year for that title. They'll also have to go up against Dortmund, obviously. But they are on the rise, and I do respect what they're trying to do over there. And I do believe it's going to give them some success in the Champions League this year. So I gave them a 4-1-3 record, and that will put them in 16th. Talking about one of the other big clubs in Germany, that's Borussia Dortmund. And the boys in yellow, I do think they're going to do pretty good as well, as they had a really good run in last year's Champions League when it came to the league phase. They also added Jude Bellingham's brother into the midfield, which will be good for them. I just feel they're lacking a little in scoring, but that's my only concern, or maybe I'm just comparing them to the other 2 German clubs. But for Dortmund, they should either way just be lights out, and it will be a 6-1-1 record, but they do miss out to Arsenal, and they would be the first team put into the knockout phase in 9th. We move over to France, and we have PSG. So PSG, number 1 club in France. It is still that way by all means. They do have some competition from behind, which a club I will bring up after the fact. But PSG, it's all them in France. They got all the players that you can need and ask for, and I do believe they are going to have a really good run and want some redemption after losing the Club World Cup. So they have a 6-1-1 record, and they're going to finish 7th. The club that's looking to chase them down is Marseille. They did not have a great first match, so that's put them a little behind. But for Marseille, I'm sure a lot of their focus is going in on this Champions League as well. I know their supporters are expecting a lot of things. They've apparently loaned both Canadians out, so that's a womp womp. They've also pissed me off by all means, but that's a story for another time. I'm not going to be biased. They have Mason Greenwood, who I think will score lots of goals, honestly. And I do believe here and there they'll have their struggles from pressure. So I gave them a 4-2-2 record, and that puts them in 14th. And third, we have Monaco, and they're definitely a good club for being in Monaco and playing in France. Don't mind the little sarcasm there. But anyways, Monaco, by all means, I do believe they are a top 3 side. I just believe those other 2 French clubs are better. I know Monaco has made some moves from the transfer window, whether it's in or out. But for me, I decided to just give them a 3-1-4 record, and that will put them in 19th. And we move over to the Netherlands, where I feel we may have the new big giant itself, and that is PSV right now. They have been really good lately. They have the American movement going on over there as well, which those players are also pretty good, and that league is also getting stronger in my opinion, and maybe you'll see more CONCACAF players move there and in general, but that's for another discussion. But for me, PSV has added some big players too. I know they added Desmond, the Romanian player. That is going to be massive for them. And for me, with PSV, I do believe they're at least going to struggle in this year's Champions League. And I gave them a 1-3-4 record. Unfortunately, they will miss out, finishing in 26th. The club that has not been up to the true standards lately is Ajax. And this is a good opportunity to start getting back to those standards in the Champions League and try to win the league once again in the Netherlands and show that their last 3 years have been a fluke and they are truly the best in the Netherlands. I want to see that from this year. I believe we're going to see that intensity from them, and it's going to carry into the Champions League, and they do not want to finish behind PSV at all. And I do believe they have the club pedigree to do it. So I gave them a 2-2-4 record. It's going to be rough, but I did also give them 21st. We move over to Portugal, and we have Sporting. So they ended up losing their top Swedish forward, so I do feel that's a loss for them. And on the other end of things, the Portuguese league is seeming to be a little weaker, honestly. And I do believe that they will be a good side in Portugal, probably still top 4. But when this translates to the Champions League, I do see the struggles. I have them getting a 2-1-5 record, so that's a lot of losses. But due to the wins, they end up getting that last spot in the knockout phase at 24th. Next, we have Benfica. And I do believe they will win League of Portugal this year over Porto. They've put together a good side by all means, and I feel they'll do okay in the Champions League, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be rough for them transitioning over from their league to the Champions League this year. I have them going a 1-3-4 record, and they ended up missing out and finished 28th. This club has an incredible story out of Belgium, and that is USG, as I call them. They ended up getting the Canadian Promise David. I know this has been a little biased talking about Canadians, but Promise David was a massive player for them, scoring goals. They had some runs in Europe last year where he was a factor too. He has the height, and I do believe they're going to do pretty good in their league. Obviously, they'll either finish first or second. I do believe they're going to score goals, but I also do believe they are going to leak a bunch of goals, as well as they are playing some serious opponents, and unfortunately, they are not going to win it all. I gave them 2 draws, 6 losses. That ends up putting them in 33rd. Please don't kill me, promise. You could say that Club Brugge is going to be a big rival with this club for the foreseeable future. And for Club Brugge, they ended up smacking Rangers to get here. Kind of hilarious if you tell me. I think they'll be good, but they do have a hard schedule by all means, and that is going to be a factor. And I only gave them a win, 2 draws, 5 losses. So just like USG, they will also miss out on the knockouts, and it will be a 29th place finish for them. We move into the countries where there's only one representative, and we begin with Turkey's Galatasaray. For Galatasaray, they are the best side in Turkey, in my opinion. It's going to stay that way. For me, their midfield is a little weak. That is my concern. They have firepower up top. They got people in the back. But my concern, as mentioned, is how is the midfield going to do against elite midfields? So that's going to be a problem for them. I think they'll have a slow start. I gave them a 2-2-4 record. But that does put them in 22nd, so they will be moving on. Moving over to this section, we have Slavia Prague, and they have a big rivalry over there in that league, and they ended up beating out their rivals this year, and that is essentially how they are here in the Champions League. So for them, I do believe they're going to enjoy the moments, but are they going to have a great time overall in these matches after the fact? Maybe not. I don't see them winning any of these matches. I do think they can pull off 3 draws, but that does put them in 32nd, unfortunately. Coming out of Greece, we have Olympic Pecos, and it feels we haven't seen a Greek club in the Champions League for a little bit, honestly. And I think this is going to be massive for them. They are absolutely going to embrace this opportunity. I think they have a easier schedule, in my opinion. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, but their home advantage is going to be a massive deal to them. I have them giving a 3-2-3 record, and believe it or not, that actually ends up putting them in 18th. So just like how Celtic was really good last year, I see Olympic Pecos doing something similar like they did. Moving over to Norway, we have Bodo Glimt, and welcome to the Champions League. So they have finally made it. They are the best club in Norwegian football right now, and I would still say that is the case. They do have a cool stadium and all, but is it all going to pan out even though they're going to get a player from this club that has done nothing? Absolutely not. They're going to have a record of 0-1-7. If you're wondering where that puts them, that's 34th. It's not last, so you can say you made it. I think that's all that matters to them right now. Oh boy. Copenhagen's back. I'm not gonna lie, this club really bothers me for some reason. They're not very fun to deal with. But anyways, like I said, Copenhagen is going to be here, and I do believe they are going to show a threat for sure. They're going to have some good moments, but I do believe they're going to have plenty more of bad moments, just like they did the last time they were in the Champions League. They have a 2-1-5 record, and with that being said, they are the first one that misses out on the knockout phase, and they won't be playing European football after the fact. I'd like to welcome another new club to the Champions League, and that is Paphos. They are from Cyprus, and they did something quite incredible. They ended up beating the Serbian giant Transweda, aka Red Star. It was quite incredible. I did not think they were going to do it at all, but they have made it. Cyprus has some somewhat decent football, so I do want to give them some credit, and this will be very massive for them in this club. And for Paphos, I think they're actually going to do fairly okay for their standards. I'm getting 1 win, 1 draw, 6 losses. That will put them 31st, but I think that's pretty good though. We have Qarabag from Azerbaijan, and they've participated in a handful of UEFA competitions in the past, and here they are in the Champions League. So for this club, I do believe they're good at their level. I don't believe this is very too much of their level, but based on goal differential, they're not going to finish dead last. They'll be tied, but I do have them getting 35th. If you put 2 and 2 together, you can see that there's a spot wide open in 36, and we're also in the 36th club, and that is Kairat out of Kakistan. Kairat pulled off the true upset. They defeated Celtic, the Scottish Giants, which is quite the incredible feat. They had to go all the way over there and all the way back to Kakistan. They were able to do it. They held Celtic to a draw, and back at home, they got the win when it mattered. So quite an incredible feat for them. But that's probably going to be all she writes, honestly. I gave them last. Their goal differential is last. It also, like I said, depends who you're playing. I don't see how that's going to so much translate, but that's why I have them last. So after looking at all 36 clubs, here we are with the final league phase results for the table. You have that top 8 that qualify for the round of 16, with 9th through 24th matching up in the knockout phase playoffs, with the winners qualifying for the round of 16, and then the losers end up going to the Europa League. And then those outside of the top 24, that's the end of your European football run for the year, and potentially for the foreseeable future, depending how they do in their leagues and qualifiers in the future. Overall, I feel I did a nice job with this one for the most part. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below, and what clubs do you think will succeed in the league phase. Coming up, I have some special things happening this week that will release on the channel as soon as the weekend, and I will also be doing UEFA Champions League reviews per each match day, so stay tuned for that. Lastly, thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button, and God bless all of you, and have a good one.